Okay. How do you feel about society's view of sexual violence?
It's kind of like the ostrich with his head in the sand, you know. I mean, first of all, we don't want to talk about sexuality. Then we don't really want to talk about when sexuality has perverted or gone outside these acceptable norms that are never talked about. You know, they're never, you know, I was talking on a panel and someone had brought up the educational system. You know, there was a gentleman that came into, that was schooled in Texas, came into the health center and was asking about a body part that was not in the male anatomy, was in the female anatomy, and was honestly asking a question, you know, that he wanted to know about his cervix. And, you know, someone had to actually tell him, well, you don't have a cervix. And is that a failing of the student not availing himself of the information, or was it the information not being available to the student? If we don't talk about this stuff, then the only resources that are available are the internet, peer culture, and mass media. And if you look at mass media, there's a huge amount of inhuman images, both male and female, prevalent for people to kind of, you know, children especially, to kind of extrapolate their own idea of, you know, what is healthy and what's not, or what is desirable and what's not.
Well, I like your analogy of the ostrich with its head in the sand, because if you look at the numbers, if it was anything else besides the sexually related nature, just the numbers and the research alone on the frequency would put it in epidemic proportion. It would put it in a much higher proportion than a lot of the things that we have walks for and are on the news on a daily basis. How would you like to see this changed?
I mean, this is the whole purpose of doing these interviews. The whole purpose of speaking out is to open the conversation. If the word is not spoken, if the conversation is not open, then we stay exactly where we are and we don't make any progress. And that's how it's been with every other thing of major importance to humankind, is that when we don't talk about it, or we say, okay, well, the earth is flat and that's it, we generally pay the price. You know, same thing with the effects of pollution, the same thing with the effects of, you know, economic, you know, issues, same thing with just about every other relevant topic that affects people and as a whole. So.
Okay. What messages do you have for other male survivors?
Well, first of all, it's not your fault, number one. That was one of the things that took me a long time to really grasp, because I would frequently think in terms of the abuse of the things that I got into, the things that I brought to myself, you know, and kind of accepting responsibility for something that was not my responsibility, something that was not a choice that would be made by, you know, a preteen or you know, an adolescent. So basically, you know, find someone that you can trust and talk to. I know that particular part is a little difficult. I mean, it's not really easy to walk to a place called the Women's Center, you know, and go in there and feel like, you know, kind of, you know, getting past that. That is where I want to open up a place for men that it's not called the Women's Center. Not that that really makes a big difference. I think that if someone who really, really wants to get help, there's nothing you can do to stop them. And if they really, really are unsure about getting help, there's nothing you can do to stop them from not getting help. So it basically goes to how long do you want the abuse to continue to perpetuate in your life? I mean, at some point, accepting, forgiving, speaking out and moving on is the only thing that I've found that has given me the ability to truly move on. So,
Excellent. What messages do you have for those who work in victim services and the violence prevention fields?
I would say, for one, just keep up the good work. Trying to think of. I don't think it's as pervasive as it used to be of kind of blaming the victim. I don't know that used to be the case, but that seems to have been something in the past. I don't know. Just thank you. It's been really all I think.
What would you like to say to your perpetrators?
Get help. It's about all I can say. After getting to the point of forgiveness and that being the basis for being able to come to the conclusion of how I might help them, which is by speaking out. Get help.
So once your recovery turned from you blaming yourself and opening it up and speaking about it, now you're able to not have animosity against your perpetrators?
I don't have any animosity. I mean, there were sick people. They did. I mean, that's obvious by the behavior. I'm not getting into the criminality. I'm not getting into the retribution. I'm not getting into any of that stuff because I don't think that is going to be helpful for me. I don't think it'll be helpful for them. That's just my personal belief. I mean, and every survivor is going to have their own path to walk around that particular area.
Okay. Eric, I understand that you were assaulted by both male and female predators. How were those experiences similar, and how are they different?
Well, on the female side, a lot of the dominant culture would say, "Oh, well, that's right on at a boy or whatever." That's a more acceptable thing. When I don't believe that it is, and it's just there's practices around of taking their children, young male sons or whatever, across the border to get a hooker or whatever, and just the thought of that really demeans women. It demeans them in a way that I think have the possibility of setting up unproductive behaviors and relationships for the rest of their lives. And at the same time they think, oh, well, that's the thing to do, man up, whatever. But if that were the case, then we wouldn't be seeing the kind of attitudes and the kind of behaviors against women that are violent, or just demeaning.